Hi, everyone. This is TK Kugler with Wasabi Ventures Stables. Thanks for coming out tonight. Tonight, we're going to do a little bit of an interesting show and webinar, a little different than our normal because we will probably talk less about horses than we have in other ones. So we're going to talk a little bit about technology, and specifically, we're going to talk about how we use Slack to run our group. And honestly, what we do with Slack is pretty unusual in the racing world. So it gathers a lot of attention. I know quite a few groups who have now adopted it since we've started using it. And it's really, we could not do what we do without a tool like Slack. So just a couple housekeeping items and a preamble before I get rolling into the content. As I said, everybody is on mute right now, but you can use the chat functionality in Zoom if you have any questions. So feel free to chat and ask questions at any point. And then the second piece that I would tell you is for those who don't know us and might be listening to this on a recording at some point, we are Wasabi Ventures Stables. We are a racing stable, racing breeding stable for thoroughbreds. And we have taken the creative approach of allowing people to buy into very small portions of horses and be a part of an ownership group at prices that weren't normally available to people. So with all that said, and like I said, I'm going to jump in. And for us to do that, and we have over 400 members now, so for us to have that kind of group and to run it well, you have to use a lot of technology. And so some of it we built from scratch, and in some cases we use other tools. And Slack is one of those tools that we use that's off the shelf. Anybody can create an account in Slack and have your own Slack utilization. So let me show you, this is Slack. What I'm showing you on my screen is the Slack app. The first thing is, let's talk about what Slack is. Slack is, for those of who have been around the internet a while, it's for all intents and purposes an easy to use, highly functional message board. And it allows people to communicate back and forth and share documents and images and other communications in a very easy to use fashion. What makes Slack so highly adaptable and adoptable is that it is very flexible. It is also very easy to use. So that's why we chose it. We use it in all of our businesses, even outside of the racing world. And it was a perfect fit to bring over to stables. And generally, people have adopted it well. But, you know, there are certain things and tricks that you can learn about using Slack. And we're going to cover some of those tonight. So the first thing to understand is that there are apps for Slack. Mobile apps. So if you have a mobile, either Android or Apple, I would highly tell you to go create and download the Slack app. It is probably one of their best features and functionalities is that they are so mobile driven. So that makes them very easy. And the second thing is that Slack is tightly integrated into other products. And it has an API that allows people like us to publish things automatically to it. So our programmers that we have in-house actually write things and write programs, software programs that will actually publish things directly to Slack with no human intervention. Which is why when we have results from races or entries into races, those get published automatically into the Slack channel for each horse. And so what I'm showing you right now is actually the desktop app of Slack. So if you have either an Apple-based product or a PC, you can absolutely get Slack to on your desktop as an app. Now, if you have the app already or you're looking at it, first of all, you'll see all of these icons to the far left that I'm now hovering my mouse over. Those are actually different Slack channels that I'm a part of. And obviously, we're going to concentrate today on the Wasabi Ventures Stables one. So the way to think of these channels is to think of them as whole groups. So this is the Wasabi Ventures group. This is the Wasabi Ventures group. This is the Wasabi Ventures Stables group. This is the Wasabi Ventures Partners group. So there's basically, I'm in a bunch of groups. All of my startup companies, each one of them has their own Slack channel. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on like that over on the left channel, or the left farthest bar. The next one is the actual individual channels inside of Wasabi Ventures Stables. So now we're looking at it. So if you'll notice, the first thing I want you to pick up on here is that some of these have little locks. Anything that has a lock is a closed group. That means you cannot get access to it unless you are invited to that group. So some of these are tied to specific horses. So each horse, when someone buys into it, they automatically get added to a group. So if you're a part of the Broad Expanse group, you actually you can have conversations just with the other owners who are part of Broad Expanse. And there's a conversation going on. Broad ran a couple weeks ago, but there was actually a conversation, just yesterday about Broad. Now, and then the other thing that you'll notice is that you have some that have the number sign or the pound sign. Those are open groups. Anyone can join those. So we have ones on books on horses and bourbon and the broodmare program. We've got some on just our education and that we do. There's a one on food, which is always popular with Mrs. Piku out there. Being our resident foodie. There's movies on racing, and there's a bunch of other topics that anyone can join. Now you might say, well, how do I join one? If you have the app and you're right here, this little, if you click on the channels right there, you'll actually get a little pop-up and you can actually just search any open channel. So like if I remember, I mentioned food, so I would find the food channel. So any topic that's open can be joined. Now I'm an administrator, so see, I can see all the channels that belong to me and the ones that are closed. But there's one about the Adoption Network, which I'm not a member of. So I'm gonna go ahead and join that channel, just like that. Now I'm on the Adoption channel. And you'll see, now if you look over to the left, you can see the other members who are part of this open group. So there are groups, once again, for every horse, but there are also open channels. So that makes it really easy. Now, we have a very active group, and one of the feedbacks that I'll get from people is, wow, there is so much stuff going on, I sometimes lose track and I don't know what's going on. So what I tell people is you can actually stay a part of a channel and control your notifications. So if we're once again, we're in the app, and so let's say I just joined the Adoption Network. If I go up here to this channel settings area, I can actually change my notification preferences. I can say I want to be totally muted. I want to stay a part of the channel, but I don't want to get any notifications. I don't want things to pop up. I want to ignore notifications that are coming for the whole group that are like big announcements. You can also change it so that you get different email notifications pushed to either your desktop or your mobile. So you can change your notifications by channel if you want. You can also change your notifications at your whole account level if you choose this account preferences area. But you can actually change your notifications. So I'm going to say, hey, for this one, I only want to get notifications on the desktop when I'm mentioned. When I'm particularly, I can mention by name. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And now I've changed my notifications. So maybe I don't get quite as much noise in the channel that I'm not as active on, or it isn't as interesting to me, but I will still want to be a part of it. So that's one that you can do. Now, I don't know if you could see that or not, but I just got a notification. It popped up and it said, oh, look, there's news in the horse news system. And that's because Christy Coppinger, she just bought 0.5% of the Golden Sense filly, so which is now down to just 13.5% left. So that's kind of how this works. Is it's I get notifications and I can jump to the channel because it gets highlighted. But let's show you a few other tricks if you wanted. So let's say you want to go up to our community channel. The community channel is a wide open channel and people can talk about whatever topics that they're interested in. But let's say I want to call out somebody specific, and I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to use it as an example. I'm going to say, Michelle, hi, I am doing a webinar on Slack and just using Michelle as a test. So when I do that, what happens is Michelle gets a special notification on her end, and it'll pop up on her Slack, and it instantly gives her a sort of a special push notification to draw her attention. You can call out anybody, and all you have to do is hit the @ sign and then start typing their name, and it comes up. A couple other tricks that I want to show you that I think you'll find interesting. One of the great things that I use Slack for all the time is as a place to keep a notepad. I can actually go down to my direct messages and I can actually write notes to myself. And it basically keeps a place. So often what I'll do is I'll find something, like you'll see that I've got a lot of links here. I'll actually cut and paste notes off my phone or links that I want to save, and I'll just save them to Slack on my phone, and they instantly also show up on my desktop because I want to use them later. I can also just use notes here. Remember to send the video to our team. And now I've got a notes section for myself, so I literally can use this as a notepad for what I'm doing. So it's really useful. The other thing is down here in the direct messaging, you can have one-on-one conversations with anyone. Just start a direct thread with someone and start talking to them. That's something that really makes it really interesting. So because it's a great way for you to have private communications between club members, and they're not monitored. People can do whatever they like. I don't know if you could see it or not, but you notice I just got a notification up at Wasabi Ventures. We're not going to go up and look at it, but I do. I get notifications all day on all the channels that I'm a part of, and it's a great way for me to stay connected with all my different team members. So those are some of the things that I wanted to really point out about Slack. Just to summarize, things that I would suggest that you do: get the apps on whatever phone you use, plus get one on your desktop. It makes the whole experience better. Join the channels that you want to be a part of, but control the notifications so that you don't get too much noise. And then lastly, don't forget to use it as a great place for your own little notepad. So those are some of the things I wanted to highlight on Slack tonight. I'm going to flip this over to darling Michelle. She is going to now cover a couple topics about Slack usage and how we use it as well. So, Michelle, I'm going to unmute you and let you roll with it.
Thank you. And leave your screen share up. I might ask you to scroll through stuff. Plus, it's better looking at that than just listening to a talking head. So TK actually covered a couple things that I didn't think he was going to cover, which takes over some of my stuff, but that's all good. I guess the first thing I'll start with is, because I'm the community evangelist, some of you have been around and on Slack for a while. I like to think of the community evangelist as being the person who gets to do all the fun stuff. On the flip side, it also means I get to do all of the rule enforcement, especially on Slack. And I don't know, about 6 months ago, I created a Slack policy that you can find if you go to our website. And the short story of it is if you're on Slack, just be nice. You're more than welcome to disagree. You don't have to agree with everything everyone says, but we try to avoid name calling, seeing anybody lose their temper over a discussion. I mean, we're here to have fun and enjoy horses. So, you know, just be civil while you're on Slack. We haven't had many instances of otherwise, but it really makes my job less fun when I have to tell people that they're going to basically get a timeout. So, you know, just treat people nicely. Because we are a club of 400 people with, I'd say, close to at least 200 of them active on Slack, we encourage conversation, but at the same time, we don't want to overwhelm people. And I know TK talked about, oh, actually, wait, we have 342 members. I just saw that. So, wow, we have a lot of people on Slack. If you can set your own settings so that you're only getting the notifications you want. For me personally, because I'm the community evangelist, I'm in almost every channel and I get notifications for almost every comment. And I don't mind that, that's part of my job. But when you're posting something, consider how to post it. If it's something everybody in the channel needs to know, for example, if you have pictures from Laurel this coming weekend and one of our horses is running, a True Gentleman is running, absolutely put it in a True Gentleman and make sure everyone sees it. But if you are in a True Gentleman and you decide to have a conversation with someone, you might also want to switch to a thread, which is that if you, TK, can you maybe go back to where maybe where I commented, like in community, or because general won't work because people can't write in community. So for example, where I said, okay, so if so, you should have an email with a Zoom info. Jeremy could have then clicked on the second button in that says start a thread, and he would say, oh, great, thanks, found the email or whatever, because everyone else in the group doesn't need to know that I got the email, but I do. So when you use a thread, other people in the group can see it, but they don't have to see it. They will not get a notification for it. So for example, yesterday, Connie Black posted about the tornadoes and severe weather they were experiencing. And 4 or 5 people commented on that same thread. You can see it up there. TK's circling it with his cursor. So there were 11 replies. Well, for everyone else on Slack, rather than getting 11 buzzes or beeps or however you set your notifications up, we all responded to her without alerting everyone else. And if you're interested, you could absolutely open those replies. TK, you want to go back up and just click where it says look. So if TK wanted, he could go through it on the right sidebar there. You can scroll through the whole conversation. But if you are busy and don't want to be involved with that conversation, so it's kind of a nice way to include everybody without alerting everybody. And then the final option is that you also, TK didn't touch on this at all, if you scroll way down in the left sidebar, you can direct message people. They refer to it as private messaging them. And if you don't see their name there, if you go to the top of it and you hit the plus, you can search for people. So maybe, and I get a lot of messages about, you know, their credits, or they had an issue with Slack. So let's say you didn't get invited to a horse channel that you're actually part of. You could direct message me, because, you know, that's not something the entire group needs to know, but I would need to know, oh, I didn't get a Slack invite, or I never got the credit that I was waiting for. And so private messaging is a great way to communicate privately with another person within our community. And we actually have people in our club who never met in person, but have become friendly through Slack. In fact, I'm thinking maybe even someday we'll have our first Wasabi Stables couple. Don't have that yet, but we definitely have friendships that have formed from people who've never met and have become friendly through the stables. So just kind of think as you're posting messages which way you want to do it. TK covered the channels, the ones that are locked. When I was talking about private messages, if you ever buy into a horse and you don't get an invite or you can't access that channel, please message me. I'll make sure I get you in there. Occasionally when people are buying horses, the purchases happen so fast that the system kind of freaks out and you may not get that invite. A very important note for everybody, and I'm hoping people watch this webinar. When we retire a horse or a horse gets claimed away, people start to leave the channel. That's completely fine. Or maybe there's a channel that you joined and you're no longer interested. Maybe you became part of handicapping and you decided there's too much chatter there for you. When you're done, please leave the channel. Do not archive the channel. Archiving the channel makes it go away, and that's something only TK and I should be doing. Unfortunately, Slack lets anybody do that, but if you're done with the channel, simply choose the option to leave it as opposed to archive it. TK also kind of stole my thunder. I was going to talk about the fun stuff with the hashtags or pound signs, as the old timer TK called them. Any channel with a hashtag you can join, and we do have a lot of fun channels that you can join. Some of those, as you mentioned, include food. We also have a bourbon channel. We have a wine channel. We have a travel channel that we haven't seen much in lately, but I know, I want to say Brian Leckie posted some photos when he was maybe in Iceland. We also have a number of channels dedicated to horse-related items that aren't necessarily racing, such as horse movies. We have books on horses. We also have a generic thoroughbreds channel for people who want to talk about horses that aren't part of the WV community. We have, what else? A sports book channel that was pretty active during March Madness. We also have a Maryland Million channel, which is 4 months away at this point, but if you're planning on being part of it, you probably want to join that channel. Anyways, these are all channels that, you know, if you're looking, if you have a little spare time, want to get to know the club more, or just to have something else to talk about, that are all there for you to join. And then finally, the other piece of Slack that I think is handy is, personally, I think it's the best way to get a hold of either myself or TK. If you have questions, want to share something, I mean, email works, but for me, every time I get a Slack that's a private message, my phone buzzes, my laptop dings, and so I'm usually fairly on top of it no matter where I am. Whereas email, I'm on top of that most of the time, but on a weekend, it might take me longer to answer. So if you're needing something, it's a great way to communicate with me, and I think the same is true for TK. Price Slack is the best option. And I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Is there anything you think I missed, TK?
No, I thought that was really good. Between the two of us, I think we covered really a great number of things. Like I said, I can't stress enough to get the app on your phone. While we're talking about this, and it's not a Slack thing, if you have not got our app, we also have apps that we've built on both Android and iOS. So if you're either an Apple person or a non-Apple person, we have an app for you, and you can look at your horses, buy horses, all of those things from the app. So I can't stress enough in the modern world, everybody's mobile. So it's good that we have a lot of mobile options here. That's all I had. Any questions from anybody out in the group tonight? Give it a couple seconds in case somebody wants to send a text or via chat. If not, I can tell you Michelle and I are going to dinner, so that's what's next for us. So anyway, all right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I hope this was helpful. I will post the video on our YouTube channel, another technology place. If you haven't looked, we have lots of videos that we post to our YouTube channel. So thanks for coming tonight, and hopefully you found this interesting.